Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose you?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
I am looking at a list of kung fu comedies, and Kung Fu Hustle is like the newest one of them all.
Really?
Like there really just aren't any new kung fu comedies.
I kind of would think that like
who's the director again? Stephen Chow?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or Stephen Chow.
Kung Fu comedy, you think, because like Kung Fu Hustle was pretty popular, you would think that if anything that would like, I mean, there's Shaolin Soccer, which came afterwards, and that's the same.
No, Shaolin was first.
Yeah.
Really?
That was like
I thought
early
it was
2000s.
I guess it was because Kung Fu Hustle was popular. I watched that, and then I watched Shaolin Soccer.
I did the exact same. That was my exact same trajectory. I watched Kung Fu Hustle because of Chet. Chet, that
Me too.
Kung Fu Hustle.
Me too.
Got Chet into buying a hatchet. Like the whole reason he bought a hatchet is because of this fucking movie. But
that's on brand. That's on brand.
The whole time I was watching it, I'm like, fuck, it's so like I was just feeling that like nostalgia. But it is crazy how well this movie holds up. But then Shaolin Soccer is really dope too, and I highly recommend it. But I had something going here. Oh yeah, why won't they make any movies like this anymore? What's going on?
I think we've fallen out of love with
martial arts.
Yeah. Martial arts. I mean, we were talking about that. This is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. First of all, we're already just.
We're doing it. Okay.
I mean, Jordan started off the fucking audio recording with talking about Kung Fu Hustle. At least we have a minute of preamble. I just got to fucking. He just not even the tip. It just goes straight in.
No, I'm raw dogging it, dude. I don't have time. This isn't a podcast for her, baby. This is a podcast for me today.
So, yeah, no, dude. You would think. But we were talking about it a little bit during Enter the Dragon, where it's like that was the peak, but then it's just like we saw a lot of movies like that for a while, but then it really did drop off. And now in like modern cinema, I guess like since The Matrix, which Matrix came out 5 years before Kung Fu Hustle, that it's like that was the end of an era in a way, even though it was like more of a comedic route. It's like you don't ever see those kind of movies because you saw a lot in the 80s and 90s. There's quite a few to pick from.
Maybe
not comedies as much because that is kind of a specific blend.
But Stephen Chow, the director of Kung Fu Hustle, that is kind of his wheelhouse. Like he got into like more satirical and comedic, but then he still is disciplined, and so it like is pretty cool to see that. Like he wears his influences on his sleeve for sure.
Oh yeah,
and like it's pretty cool.
Here's my theory. I think it's because the mystique of Eastern martial arts kind of disappeared, and we moved on to more like realistic things, UFC, MMA, jiu-jitsu, or like these things need to be
popularization of the internet. It's like now it's
it needs to be real. Like, oh, this can't work in real life. It needs to be like, oh, that's not how you throw like a straight punch. If you throw it like that, then you're gonna get like hit or something like that.
It's a good point because it's like if I watched Enter the Dragon in 1974, I probably would have been a lot more impressed with like the moves. But nowadays, I'm like tainted by how much information I have access to. You know what I mean?
There's a reason why.
That's a good point.
There's a reason why MMA, jiu-jitsu, and Muay Thai are like the dominant martial arts. You don't see karate guys as much anymore, unless they're
karate.
Unless it's like and that I guess I'm
a yellow belt in Taekwondo. Okay, so I'm
a green belt.
Okay, yeah. This is Pablo, our special guest today. He is actually a fucking Shaolin monk. He fucking
trained in the mountains.
He's a green belt in Taekwondo. He was part of the Hatchet Gang even, and so he has a real good insight into this story today. So tell us,
our Stephen Chow.
What is the deal with these literally superhumans?
Oh my god, this movie is a cartoon, and I love it.
It's such an anime. Like that's what it just made me think.
I didn't even think anime. I just thought this is cartoon. This is Looney Tunes.
Well, it was just like the shots where it's just like, you know what I mean? It definitely felt like, and like just the abrupt changes and like the reactions and stuff.
For me, it's 100% the character tropes. Like everybody is just one character. They're one dimensional, but like they play it so well and it's so sincere that like I'm having a good time, and I've never. It's so weird. I was like, as we're watching this movie, because I haven't seen this movie for a long time, but as I'm watching it, I'm like I like it, and there's a charm to it, but like it's not a very good movie. Like, when it comes down to
I
it.
actually didn't do my letterbox
Great
rating yet, because it's another one of those movies where it's like, it's not that good, but I enjoyed the hell out of it, because what makes it good is its charm, and it's like goofiness, and like kind of in the ways that it's quote unquote like not good as like a filmmaking is kind of like what makes it good. So it's weird. It's like, how do you quantify that? And it's hard to do. And that's why you should go to Reddit, go to the survey that I have on the Reddit page, because it is broken down into sections. So maybe you can work that out yourself. It's just a 1 to 10 rating on each genre, on like the cinematography and the effects.
Yeah, do the work yourself. Don't just listen to us talk about it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
Go participate. Please be in the film club. We
do
love
something.
It.
Do something with your life.
Hey, you piece of shit.
Do something. Whoa, God, Pablo, stop, dude. I understand. Like,
yeah, we get it. You're
don't
the fucking
threaten our
kung fu
audience,
master.
man.
God damn.
Please, yeah.
You gotta quit lording it over us, fucking
No one's gonna
karate
come.
guy.
I know when you're walking and it's late at night and someone passes you and they don't
We get
properly
it.
greet you.
You wear tank tops.
I do wear tank tops.
So anyway, just for people who have not seen the movie or it's been a long time, let's really quick, because speaking of story, let's just get the story out of the way. Let's just do like a quick synopsis, right? Because it's all over the place. So I'm not going to dwell. Did somebody else want to do it?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to fucking pop it off, but
Just
if you
go
want
for
to do it, I'm not going to remember any of the characters' names, so just do
I
it.
don't remember the character's name either.
That's fine.
There's a bad guy, Hatchet Gang, kills a guy at the beginning, right? They're like the most feared gang in all the area, but they don't fuck with the lower income areas because there's nothing to get there. So the slums are left surprisingly kind of untouched, right? So there's Pigsty Alley, which is like this kind of like building complex slum area. People are like showering in the fucking gutters and stuff like that. But it's like a nice little community. They got their little shops. They got they got the Kungi guy. They got the fucking tailor guy.
They got Donut Man.
They got Donut Man.
He's my favorite.
He's dope, yeah. And so he's the Kungi guy, because the landlords, right? And so anyway, this town it's peaceful and it's away from the gang. But then this guy and his buddies show up, our little trickster. I'd call him our protagonist, right? He shows up and he's like, "Hey, I'm part of the Hatchet Gang, so you better." He like tries to blackmail someone, and it turns out he's full of shit. He's not actually part of the Hatchet Gang. He's just like a low time crook that was trying to basically frighten someone into getting him a nice haircut and buying his booze and stuff. But that brings the attention of the real Hatchet Gang, because they show up and he throws a firecracker on the dude's head. And but then the Hatchet Gang comes and is trying to intimidate the town, and then surprise, Donut, fucking Taylor guy, and like buff worker guy, they're all superhumans that know ultra kung fu. And so is the landlady, even though she doesn't show it off as much, and she kicks this guy like 100 feet into a trash barrel and kills him.
Is it supposed to be the landlady that did that?
She did that.
Broke his back?
She did that.
Oh,
move,
okay,
yeah.
okay. I love that. I love when they're like, "Did anyone see what happened?"
Yeah, yeah. It's because so it was the first time. It's jarring when you first see it because it's that super sped up like Roadrunner, fucking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, "Oh, this is crazy. We got to get back to the big boss." And so, they bring the big boss around. Big boss is humiliated when all his hatchet men get their butt kicked by those three dudes, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna get back at you." And then the landlady and the landlord husband, they're like, "Hey, you can't be. This brings unnecessary attention onto the village. We're gonna flip a coin, and if it's heads or whatever, you're banished." And so they get banished, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, that's cool. I wish we would have known." They're like all about to leave, and they're like, "I wish we would have known that we were all kung fu masters. We could spar." And they have like a little fun fight.
Yeah, dude, that was cool.
And it's friendly, and you think that they're gonna be like the main characters, and then the main bad guy, the Hatchet Gang, hired these assassins. Mm-hmm. They show up, and there's like a huge battle, and they all die. Yeah. Everyone is killed, but then the landlord and the landlady, they come down, they kill the guys, they kind of save the day, and they intimidate the big boss guy again to be like, "Don't you fuck with us, because we're gonna wear your skin." They're just like teleport into the car with them.
Yeah.
And so what is the main boss guy? The sniveling boss guy with disgusting teeth, by the way, but everyone does his dirty work. He goes to get the even biggest assassin. They break him out of a mental institute with the help of our scrappy go lucky buddy, which I barely touched on him. He's got like a weird side quest of like a deaf girl he helped and his fat friend, but it's irrelevant sort of. But he breaks out this psycho supervillain out of this prison that's just like some old guy that apparently is like, I just need the ultimate challenge. Like he is an anime character. Like he's a character.
It's straight up like, I don't need to be paid. I just want a
I
worthy
imagine
adversary.
like it's
I'm
the
like,
one eye like in an anime where it's like looking up like, you know.
Well, no, the funny part is that it's just like this gross guy with like
Yeah.
barely any hair in his
disgusting.
underwear. And I'm all like, this
great.
is the ultimate bad guy.
He's got like Crocs on. It's
Dude,
awesome.
it's
you know,
great.
like foam
Yeah.
flop flops. But
Yeah,
but it's cool because the bad guy shows up, and the landlord and landlady are like there to kill the Hatchet Gang, and so they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna have a battle now. So they have this huge battle, and our scrappy young protagonist kind of steps in at one point to try and help. So he flips sides, and they save him and run off. And the super bad guy villain is like, oh, those are my only worthy foes. And then the other guy's like, you dumb piece of shit. And so he kills the leader of the Hatchet Gang just out of nowhere.
Right.
Before the climax. And then he goes and tracks them down and they have a super ultimate fight. But they bring back our scrappy young hero from the Bridge of Death. Mm-hmm. And suddenly they're like, wow, his chakra, it was unlocked in him all along. And so that. He comes back and he's just like in a white shirt.
Yeah,
he studied like, the Buddhist palm method or whatever
when he was a kid.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
and like,
that's such a funny bit.
Yeah, and so
that's such a good bit.
So good. So there's the ultimate showdown at the end where he's got the super Buddhist palm and he gets fucking knocked up into the sun practically, and he comes down and
you see Buddha.
He kills
you see Buddha in the clouds. That's so good.
Yeah.
He whoops the other guy's ass by like using supernatural palm powers, and the other guy has for some reason frog powers. That's the frog method that he uses.
All right, yeah,
okay, it's Toad style.
Yeah, well, it's like a specific Toad style.
Yeah,
but he whoops his ass, and then the like Pigsty Alley is practically destroyed. And instead of killing him, he's like, "Oh, you want to? I'll teach you." And he's like, "Master."
Because he's very enlightened. Yeah, now he's
he's been humbled, and so now
that is my favorite trope.
He doesn't need to kill.
Humbled.
Dude, it's beautiful.
At the end, they have like a candy shop or whatever, and the deaf girl's there, and the fat friend's there. Everyone from the village is there.
He's living in the city now,
happily ever after.
Yeah, the cute scene. They have the cute scene where like they're both back as children, and I'm all okay.
Yeah,
that was a nice way to top it off.
And it's like this has like a very thin love like subplot, very very thin, but it's still cute.
It's got one of my favorite gags because I'm like when he first steals the ice cream from her, and she's all looking at him all longing like, I recognize you, and he's like, what, you never seen an ice cream thief before?
Yeah, you
it's like he runs away.
Dude, I want to know
as she's running.
Are you talking about which version did we watch?
Yes.
Yeah.
What version did you watch?
Pablo. You watched the dub.
I watched it
subbed.
Right? I watched it subbed on Tubi.
Yeah.
Hey, me too.
Did you?
I watched it subbed because I tried watching it on Plex, and it didn't have subbed version, and I've seen this movie enough times that I know the voices and I know the jokes, and so I know what's gonna happen. And like listening, like I watched like maybe 10 minutes of the dubbed, and it is so atrocious, and I just couldn't. I couldn't handle it.
All right, hold on. Let me tell you. So I had a little bit, and this is not a testament to the movie at all, because I was so frustrated because I had tried watching the movie and it was dubbed. And I'm like, I cannot watch dubbed movies. They drive me crazy. I think they're abomination.
Live action
is
really, really
animation.
Really
animation, it's usually like, who cares? Because it's already not like perfectly. Yeah, exactly. But live action, I want to see the performances that are actually happening right in front of me. And so I finally got I was like looking up online. I was having a hard time getting, for some reason, I guess I didn't get directed to Tubi, but having a hard time getting the like Cantonese or Mandarin or whatever the fuck with subtitles, which I preferred. And I finally did. And I was going to text you, Jordan, because I had both versions on the Plex and you could switch them, But then the subtitles weren't working, and so I'm like, I can't watch it. I'm not going to pull a Jordan and watch the whole movie without subtitles.
I still remember that. Coda.
And so I'm like,
Learn sign language.
I know. Well, I'm going to learn Cantonese apparently.
Learn
or whatever.
Cantonese, yeah. What do you?
And
You're
so I was
rusty
like,
on your Mandarin.
So I was looking it up, and everyone online was like, the dub version for what the movie is, we usually agree, is the definitive edition. They're like, that's the definitive version. That's the one that actually captures the spirit of the movie, has the best voiceover acting, and the best jokes. And so I was like, fuck it, I guess I'll just watch the dubbed version. So I watched the dubbed version instead of the other version. And I watched like 20 minutes of both versions. And I do think, like, the dubbed version is the way to go, honestly. Like, surprisingly. Surprisingly.
I heard that the dub, Stephen Chow, like, worked on the dub and incorporated different jokes.
It's
So
100% different. I tried to watch it with subtitles, but the subtitles are for like the actual spoken, and they do not match at all. But it's like,
no, they don't.
The jokes are better, and like the delivery is surprisingly better. Like the delivery of the dub is like the timing and like the comedic timing and like everything is way better than what I watched, at least like the first 20 minutes of the actual actors. Like nothing against them, they were fine, but the dub was surprising. Any other movie I wouldn't have been able to handle it, but the fact that it's like such a goofy movie anyway, and it's sort of like, I don't want to go, it's not full into parody territory, but it is where it's like so many movies of that era were dubbed that I could kind of, after a while, I got used to it and I accepted it. Normally I'm way against it, but surprisingly,
I thought the comedic timing of the subs was still like hilarious.
Still pretty
I'm like, okay, these jokes are still landing, and these are still really funny.
If you ever watch it again, you should just try and mix it up. Watch it with the dub.
I will.
Yeah, I might try that because I heard that it is supposed to be be accessible, so they like actually did try.
It's probably has way more homophobic jokes, and so that's why it's harder to find because there's a lot of that. Really? And I was on Reddit, a Reddit forum about it, and they were like, oh, because someone was like, I can't find the dubbed, and I'm like, I can't find the other version. What the fuck? And some people were like,
they call him a fairy, and that's like the closest thing that's like that. You're just like, well, it's kind of like, it's just one of those things where it's like, well, that's soft, fucking.
I mean, this whole movie, they always are like that. The one gay barber guy's just always got his ass hanging out for some reason, because apparently that's how like saucy butt.
So funny. Like at the end when they're panning through, like everybody,
he just has his ass out,
squatting with his.
What is he doing?
He's taking a shit.
What is he? Well, no, but there's nothing. He's just in the middle of the room.
No, there's like a paper with like shit on it.
Oh, okay. I mean,
I literally was like, he's just shitting on like a piece of paper or something. At least I thought it was like a big, gross, wet spot, and I was like, nasty.
I don't know, but it was just funny. I'm like, what are these? Like, this movie is like the definition of unhinged. Like, I just the entire time they would
unhinged and stereotypes.
What are you? Well, right, and like, but like done well. I mean, that's what I like about it. Is like it's not offensive because it's. Somebody,
like the Asian mom with their hair curlers, like throwing the sandal. I'm all like, oh,
and like just a cigarette hanging out around.
Dude, oh my god! When she's got the cigarette and she's like kissing her husband, and she's moving it.
She's my favorite. She's my favorite character. She's so fucking cool.
No, by far, dude. I loved her like character in the first time I ever saw it. It was like. When she like sucks in and like her chest gets huge and then she like blows out the lines.
The big drag of the cigarette.
Like the whole thing.
So
yeah, dude, and like blowing out. And I'm like, that's such a sick. Like this really is like a Tekken or an anime where I'm like, God, I love like seeing the moves. Like I'm like, it's so cool how they.
No, it's like a special move. It is. It's like you you got your special meter up enough.
Yeah.
And you got it, and you use the bell to amplify. It's just like fucking rips them.
It's so cool.
Lions roar.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got the palm and everything.
The Buddhist.
See, this should be. They should have made like a fighting game out of it. I think that actually would have been perfect as a fighting game of this.
Totally.
Because like the two assassins with like that, I don't know what that stringed instrument is called, but like
like a steel guitar.
How they're like.
It looked like a koto, but I don't know. It could have been.
And then like towards the end of that fight, like they keep doing that, and then you just see like a massive undead Chinese army coming. I'm like, why not? This is so cool. What?
I know. I was like, when that everything that happened in this movie, every time it like escalated to something crazy, it did such a good job like getting me to a place to suspend my disbelief with its like cartoony nature. Like the first time they get too wacky with like the speed and like all that, like it does kind of throw me off. But they do such a good job that when something like that happens and there's a giant undead army, you're like, yeah, of course. Why not? Like,
Undead
of course.
Chinese Ghost
Like,
Army.
Yeah.
And then the assassins again also being like you've seen like that character in other medias before, like with the round sunglasses,
100%.
this like the super sharp nails. And I'm just like, okay, I've seen these characters before. I've seen the Asian landlady before. I've seen the Kung Fu Master before.
That's like what Jordan's saying. It's like they're cartoonish and like anime in the way that it's just like every character is their one thing, but that's like surprisingly fine in the context, you know? Which is like why we say it's unfortunate. It's just like the gay guy's character, his character trait is that he's gay. You know what I mean?
That he's gay, right.
And it's like the
landlady. Like they play it well, where like everybody has kind of like the soap opera version, like the woman, the like I don't even know they call her like a bucktooth and that, and like she's the one that kind of I don't even know, she just kind of is kind of somewhat wealthy, but like very flirtatious and very like sexualized and stuff. But her like when she was sauntering away and like I just was cracking up.
Or when the other guy, the guy that gets called the fairy, like has like the see-through, like the Reynolds, like what's wrong with red underwear, and then she comes down.
Comes to defend him.
Oh my god!
All right,
all the bits are amazing.
Let's back it up a little bit. Let's just back it up. So this was none of our first viewing. I want to know what your guys' like expectations were, like seeing it now. Like how has it like your feeling changed much since the first time you saw it, or like has any like this is a movie that I kind of never thought I'd watch twice, but I'm glad I did.
For me personally, this was a movie I really enjoyed, and
I really enjoyed it, but I kind of forgot about it, right?
But that's kind of the thing. It's like this movie kind of unlocked the part of my brain where I was like, oh, I watched like Kill Bill and this movie. They kind of live together in my head for what they are. And so the thing is, I haven't seen this movie in years, like decade plus for sure. Yeah. And I mean, even God, probably 15 years.
Almost,
but it's
15,
like
20 years almost for me.
You know, right? And so it's like I remembered it better, and then this was a testament. The entire time we were watching it, I was like, oh, this is a testament to where like it was good CG then, because I forgot half of it was CG. Like, you know, I mean, there's a large majority of this movie that has CG and has like so much ridiculous CG that it's almost like it almost distracts, but like works so well in this movie.
It fits the look and the tone, of the movie so well.
Like,
you don't really notice.
It didn't bother me at all, but I really forgot. So it's a testament to see like, oh, it was good CG then, but this is totally what it's like in like 20 years. I'm gonna look at movies from now and be like, oh wow, it's got a lot of CG in it. Like it's like weird how that happens. But I didn't remember that much. But I remember this fondly, and I had a great time watching it again.
What about you?
So I first watched this movie like I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, and watching it again, I was like, okay, this is gonna be ridiculous, but it's gonna be fun. And I wasn't expecting a whole lot of martial arts really, but all the choreography and all like the actual scenes of them doing that stuff were all beautifully done. And I'm all like, okay, I missed this. I miss seeing this choreography, the wire works.
Yeah.
For some of the CG, I will say it was a bit distracting for me. There were some times where I'm all like, did you really need to make that CG gun? You couldn't have a practical gun.
The fight, the choreography, but that's the thing. It's like the choreography was super dope, but it was smart because it transitioned into the CG so well, like, which is another level of like choreography, like doing a fight with something that's not there, which it's ridiculous because it's just like so many times it's like the bodies would turn CG because they're just ragdoll like 50 feet, and instead of doing wires, they just be like, that guy's flying through a wall and he's just like a weird early 2000s CG guy.
For me, it was hit and miss for some of the CG. There was something like with the gun. It's like it's very clear that guy's not holding a gun. It's just like clipping through his hand because they can't really because they have to hand composite it because there's nothing there.
Yeah. Well, it's like Jordan said. It's like back in the day because I watched it like shortly after release, and I thought it was a lot of fun. But I didn't really. I recognized like obviously like the crazy Roadrunner scene where they're like chasing each other, and like I know a lot of it's CG, but it's like this time, like the first time you see him when the protagonist shows up and he's like got the soccer ball and he's like kicking the soccer ball and then he like squishes it and it's just like a weird CG ball.
Right.
It was distracting at first because it was like the start of. Oh yeah, that could have been anyone.
Wait a minute. Is that a reference to Shaolin Soccer?
Shaolin Soccer, it is.
Yeah, because then he's like, no, this is the main guy. It's got to be the main guy, right?
Yeah. Right. When I say that this movie wears its homages on its sleeves, it like literally doesn't care. Like, I mean, it had like the Shining elevator.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Looney
Forgot about
Tune. It like they're like the sound effects and the tropes and everything it's doing in this. It's like it's doing it, and that's how come I compare it to like a Kill Bill or like a Quentin Tarantino, where like he knows what he's homaging and doing, and he like does it blatantly, but he does it well, and so you're not really that offended, or you're not like you kind of like it's an homage. I guess that's where homage falls in place instead of like
it's interesting because it's like this does really
parody.
walk the fine line because
Parody,
this
yeah.
is not quite like it's not a spoof and it's not quite a parody full on of like the genre because that's the really fine sweet point of like it exists in the genre while also like kind of making fun of its tropes, which is like a hard thing to kind of accomplish to like do both. Like it is an awesome cool like kung fu movie, but it's also kind of goofy and making fun of awesome cool kung fu movies of the past, which is like a hard balance to maintain.
And it constantly does that throughout the movie of just like when you first see the slum and it's like, okay, they're gonna have to ask for outside help. Oh no, they have 3 badass kung fu guys. Oh, they just
Did you
all
see my
got
Reddit
killed.
comment about that?
Yeah, no, they just all got killed. Okay, now they gotta fight the big boss. Oh, the big boss just got killed by the bigger boss.
That
And
was
I'm
one of
like,
my
oh my goodness.
like that made the story super disjointed, but it was also like one of my favorite things because it was sort of like all over the place, but it was like subverting like your expectations and
Keeps messing
constant
with
tropes.
your expectations all
Like,
the time.
Yeah, at the beginning you definitely are like, oh, this is going to be like a Seven Samurai, and then you're like, nope. And then like the one that caught me off guard the most is like the main 3 guys. I'm like, oh, it's going to be about them now. They have their fun little fighting, sparring, and
So
they're going to
good.
go. And then like they're all killed in the next scene. And I'm like, oh shit, like it's just kept kind of keeping you on your toes. Like you kind of never knew it was going to go. I was waiting for like the main hero to die, but then instead he literally goes the exact opposite and becomes like a god.
Well, the guy who
Yeah.
the guy who looks most like the hero character, like the regular Wing Chun dude, is just insta-killed. Like the bow staff guy and like the okay, so the style that I think is called Hungar with the rings.
Yeah.
It's very like flowy and a lot of
No,
like
that's-
forearms.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So
Yeah.
like the Hungar guy and the bow staff guy both like get at least some hits in.
Yeah.
But the main hero looking dude gets insta killed and
I
it's
will.
crazy.
I'm gonna jump forward a little bit because that is my favorite scene of the movie.
Oh,
Is-
totally.
when-
When they're and it's just like and you see
But-
like things like
Yeah,
Rip,
but you don't see it at first. You're just seeing like the things
Like
for
the
buff,
wisp,
and then the cat jumps off and you see its shadow get cut in half.
yeah,
And then
dude.
I'm like, oh shit's going down, like, and then
And
he
I-
just gets decapitated,
He
and you're like,
just gets-
holy
yeah,
shit!
dude,
Like
he
from
gets
behind,
murked
like you just like, what?
immediately.
Insta killed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is great. And I was
That-
like, those guys were so cool. Like
is
that whole
probably, like, the best
scene,
fight.
yeah, that was great. Like all the
And I
fights
love
were.
and I love like
cool.
and that's where I think like the scenes work really well and it just feels like I'm gonna keep going back like Tarantino, but it like that like the scene before the assassins, like when they get hired, that whole conversation is awesome. It's a great this is a great film too. That's what's nice about this movie. Like I think
Solid dialogue.
I think that like the stylization of it almost kind of is a distraction. It's a little like I think it's a hindrance. Like it's I don't know. I think for what he probably wanted to do is be like, wow, look how stylized this is. But like I was like, oh man, I wish it was toned down and a little bit more practical.
Yeah.
You know? But I mean that's just like that obviously that's
I think if
kind
it
of
went
it's always good,
farther
but-
one way or the other, it probably would have
Yeah.
had more staying power culturally. Because it's like if it would have been a little bit more grounded and more VFX and it's like not super cartoony, it probably would have been like respected in a way. But then it's like too cartoony, but it's not like hyper stylized for a lot of the scenes. Like everything that's not crazy is shot very in like a normal way. But if it was like, I don't know, like this, like the set design and the cinematography was like this hyper crazy, weird, stylized thing, but it's like only the fight sequences are
In
mostly.
the beginning, it seemed like it was going to go that route. Like in the very first sequence, it felt
Yes.
like this is a very stylized. Like the sky is like almost like blood orange.
Yeah.
Right. And like the gang dancing and it's kind of
Yeah.
like
Oh,
you would
that's-
think it would
good
just
scene,
the whole time is like it's gonna be like this where it's just kind of like unhinged and like I thought like the momentum would be there a little bit more through the whole thing. I don't feel like this movie really lags at all, but there are a few times where I'm like he's trying to like kind of shoehorn like sympathy and a story into it. And I'm like, you don't really necessarily need this. Like,
Yeah.
there's more. You don't need him like as a kid getting peed on twice. Like,
I definitely
get it.
don't. Yeah,
But,
100%. I 100% agree. That's like its biggest flaw, right? Is it's like it's not that it lags. It's there's a lot of scenes you're like, what's the point of this? Like this is not really. This is not doing anything for a character that is just about to die. So why is there all this character development for someone that we don't care about? Or, like it's like so much of this stuff. It's like kind of amounts to nothing. It's like trying to add a heart. I get it. It's flawed, but I think it's a flawed gem, obviously.
Oh,
No,
totally.
absolutely. And I think that was also because like all the wire stunts that didn't take me out of it, but when it got like a bit too much, and then they kind of went back and forth, that's when it kind of distracted me a bit. Like the landlord dude, when he kind of like seemed like he was like floating basically.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
know, right.
a lot of the moves that he did were like really cool, really interesting. Like when he like ducked down and both of them hit each other. I'm like, that was
His
cool.
move's like a rubber kind of guy, which is cool.
And which is, guess what? That's also like a real thing in some martial arts. So I'm like, okay, did you have to make him seem like an actual feather person, CG weird like rubber dummy thing?
Yeah, that I think that's the first scene that kind of really threw me off. Like once it started picking up with the wackiness and the CG, like I said earlier, my suspension of disbelief was there, so I didn't mind it as much. But earlier on, you feel like it's a little bit more grounded, and then you see him she runs like a cartoon character, and then knocks him out the balcony, and it's that terrible CG of him falling down, which in the context of the rest of the movie fits the vibe. But at the time, it just looks like really weird CG that I'm just like, oh, why didn't they just throw a dummy off at that point? You know what I mean? But then I was like, oh, okay. Then they kept doing it. And so after they kept doing it, I kind of got used to it a little bit more with the weird ragdolling that all the people would be doing.
Because the choreography was beautiful. All of the choreography.
Well, you even got to
so well
choreograph.
done.
You got to choreograph the CG too.
That's why.
And with it, it's kind of hard to choreograph and have a fight scene against nothing if you're going to just add CG later.
Well, talking
So that'd be
about
interesting.
a different movie, and the reason why I won Best VFX for the Oscars this year is because the main director, it was the lead VFX guy. So the more conjoined they are like that, then the better product comes out.
Oh, Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other movie could I be?
It took me a minute to
No, right.
remember
Sorry. Yeah,
what one.
Godzilla won Best VFX, and the main director was also the lead VFX director.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
That's why it worked.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That
Because
totally
it was
helps,
so
yeah.
integrated. Well, that's forget the night. It's Gareth Edwards or whatever, the guy that did he later did the shittier Star Wars movies, but he started doing Monster and things like that, where he directed those. He did, he's the other guy that did The Creator. There was the next runner-up where it's
another VFX artist.
Yeah, he's the VFX artist and the director, so he shoots it with that intention of doing the mix. He's very much thinking about it and then does it himself. Yeah, which is that's the way to do it instead of having so many offshoots. It's the VFX is such an afterthought, and so it's this movie the VFX doesn't feel like an afterthought most of the time. The only thing I hated was the Roadrunner stuff. I that kind of drove me nuts. That scene was definitely my least favorite scene where she's chasing him.
It's very clearly composited, and there's they're just putting a picture in front of a screen.
Yeah,
right. That aged probably that was really poorly aged, and then his lips effect was I was I don't know. I mean, I actually kind of liked it because the sound effects were hilarious and it's a great bit. But I mean, I think one of the greatest gags is the knife knife gags when he throws it.
That's so good.
And stuff. But it's I don't know that.
But that felt kind of grounded, right?
Yeah,
Earlier on,
sure.
that felt like just being a
and that
comedy,
felt very slapsticky. That was super old school slapstick.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That was one of my biggest laughs, honestly. I was like,
oh, dude, especially when he pulls it out and he's like, oh, don't pull it out. And he puts it back in. It's just you're
the
oh my
first
God.
time he accidentally knifes he throws it in the
Or
gun.
when he's trying to act tough, and it's all right, I'm gonna fight you, you kid, let's rumble. This really
so
rip
good.
kid. I'm like,
that scene.
I was
slayed me too.
or the smaller guy, and then he stands up. He's 7 foot tall. I'm like, what did I say about cheating?
Yeah.
But I just Stephen Chow has a great comedic timing. He has a great
absolutely.
voice for it. It's him just that scene is a testament to his writing and his acting skills. It's him just railing it off and going through and just being oh, you guys are lying and get everyone together. I
That's
loved
why
it.
I wanted a bit more of that though.
No, that's why the comedy landed, And the choreography landed because you can tell he already knows both very, very well.
Yeah.
Very, very well. Yeah, he loves. Yeah, because he grew up on Bruce Lee, and then he, like, through his whole life, through the 80s and 90s, he worked in cinema.
Did you shut up, Levi? Did you guys catch like when it was like, oh, if he studied real hard, he could be a doctor or a lawyer? It's like more likely a stuntman. I'm like, the actor's doing all like he's a stuntman.
Yeah.
Guess
He's
what?
doing it all.
Guess how that all martial arts are supposed to work now? Get the stuntman to just do the stunts.
It's what I think another thing that it's like it makes this movie like it's fine, but it makes it feel disjointed. Is just like the first half does have like the most like clever jokes in the visual that are like more subtle, like the buff kid coming out like that scene, and like just him being like, "Oh, let me see your hands. You're tough. Don't make me have to fight you when the big guy comes out." But it's like when they're relying on like the jokes and it feels more grounded and there's jokes and then it's like peppered in with like the crazy like fight scenes. But the second half was like the fight scenes were super dope and super goofy, but they definitely took over. You know what I mean? Where it's just like we got like 3 10-minute long epic fight scenes with like a ton of CG, which were really cool and funny in their own way. But it's just like I missed in the first half like the knife gag, right? There's things like the more like, I don't know, it is like this certain grounded where it had to rely on like the performances and like kind of like the characters timing. Like having the written bits.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then it gets to a point where it's just like kind of so over the top, over stimulus. It's fun, but it's not as funny, later in the back half.
No, I agree.
Still good, but it's like a different vibe. I wish there was like kind of a more of a balance of that. You know what I mean?
No, sorry, my favorite bit from like when he's challenging everybody is when he goes up against. He's talking to the woman, and the woman just like sucker punches him in the stomach, and then just blood comes out of his mouth. It's like, what do you do? I'm a farmer. It's like farmers and girls can't fight.
Yeah.
It's like never mind.
Yeah.
He's like, you're lucky.
Yeah.
And then again, he
You're
tries
lucky
to
I don't hit women.
he tries to act like a tough guy like when he's on like the bus or the trolley, and he goes like, "Hey, 4 eyes," and it's like this really nerdy dude, and then the nerdy guy just beats the crap out of both him. And so I was like, "Why didn't you back me up?" He's like, "Bark, bark." I'm like, what are you doing?
He's like trying to. You need to be more intimidating.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
See, that's like, but then they
that's
like
funny.
That's what I'm saying. It's like then they sideline their duo.
When they separate and he kicks him out, and like that's really when
it feels like they didn't know what to do with that character, and so they kind of just wrote him off until the end, and they're like, oh, he's back now, and it's a candy shop and get it because he's fat. That's his character. That's his personality trait is he's a fat guy.
It's pretty funny.
He's soft and tender.
No, it's good. That's what I'm saying. Everyone's one-dimensional personality traits are used for good comedy, so it's like I'm not complaining.
Yeah,
but it's like I don't know. Like I wish, like I honestly kind of forgot, and I like the landlord and the landlady a lot, but
they're the best characters.
Yeah, but I forgot about the quote-unquote protagonist because he's like not even in it for like 40 minutes in the back half, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm part of the gang," and then he runs up and smacks the guy with the chair leg, and then flips sides kind of on that,
Well, it's because
I was like, oh yeah, he's in it.
It's implied that they he's their son, the landlady and the landlords.
Right, yeah. Where they're like, he looks like he'd be about the age of our boy would be now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's not their son, their surrogate son at least.
Every tendon and every bone in his body is broken. How is he healing so fast?
Yeah.
I know. Right, and that's like the anime trope where it's like, he goes like Super Saiyan because it's like he gets killed, and I love it's like that's what I like about this movie is like it's so blatant, but it works so well where like they just look over and it's like the butterfly comes out of the cocoon, and it's like that's exactly what he's doing, and then it's
like so obvious.
Beautiful. Yeah. I just love that. Like that's the style. Like that's like the triumph that I love in movies is when like he does become enlightened and he just comes out, and that's what the Matrix did, and it's like. He just comes out and he's just
starting to believe
he's the one. I mean, he's the fucking one. Like that's they use that in this movie. Like he's going to be the one because he's a kung fu genius.
Good.
It is always good, and he's going super fast and fighting all the guys.
He's now able to unlock the Buddhist palm, and I'm sorry, but those moves where you just see him do the palm,
the giant hand,
and the giant hand through the building, and you just see the outline. I'm like, that's cool.
That's cool.
That's cool.
That's an anime.
It is. Yeah, that is better. I'm kind of bummed though because that last fight really is the most like muddy CG, and that it's such a bummer because it's like him shooting into the walls and stuff and blowing holes through it, and like his frog style is really cool, but like it totally goes. It's like it becomes like 100% CG
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like such a disservice, but it's still fun. I mean, this whole movie to me is super fun, and I'll watch it again in 10 years.
This is a good example, like I talk about quite all the time with you, Pablo, is like this is a good example of style over substance. Because it's like all the complaints that we've kind of been making about like, you know, the tone and like the CG and like the weird like plot pacing and character shit. Like all that stuff is there, and it would feel like a disservice not to mention it, but it's like that's not what it's about, so I don't really care because that's not really the movie's intention.
No.
And so normally I couldn't overlook that stuff as easily, but since this movie's really trying to focus and do something different, it's easy for me to kind of be like, yeah, that's kind of minor. You know what I mean? Like in the grand picture of things of like this crazy, wacky story. Like it's like, again, of course it just takes a turn. And of course the protagonist just isn't in it for 40 minutes and it's about this other couple now, which is a more interesting couple. But
And again, he's super unlikable for half the movie.
oh yeah.
I know, right? I mean, I like him.
I like him because he keeps getting his shit pushed in.
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
know, I know how it ends, and so I kind of like I can see this like the first time you watch this, it's gonna be he is a little off-putting. Like the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, I thought he redeemed himself and became like, you know, a better character like sooner. I didn't remember it was like the last 20 minutes really. Yeah, it's really late in the movie, and so the whole time I'm kind of like, but you can tell for like how pathetic he is, you know, and how much like
that's what's funny.
and his whole like his like motive to be a bad guy and strong.
Yeah, he
is,
stood up
like,
and tried to be
so
a hero once and
flimsy.
got pissed
It's
off.
so-
And it's like now,
Yeah, it's so great.
I mean,
good
like,
guys never win. You know.
honestly,
Yeah.
to be fair, that I do see that like mindset in a lot of people.
Oh,
It's like,
100%.
oh, you know,
Of course,
I got bullied as a kid, so now I'm gonna be an asshole. To
It gives
everybody
me,
else.
it gives me a fucking free pass to be a douchebag.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love how like he isn't, you know, he's like never killed. Like he goes that and he's like we haven't robbed anyone, killed anyone, raped anyone, you know, murdered or whatever.
Haven't done any of
You know,
So
and he's like,
bad at being bad guys.
Yeah, he's
yeah,
bad,
What's
yeah.
the deal?
He is.
And that's what's funny. But then it's just like, yeah, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then he's gonna become Kung Fu Jesus at the end.
But it's so good because
But
it's
it
like,
works.
It works.
He buys. That's where it's like this is like
I don't
know if
buy
you've ever
his.
watched
I don't
One Punch
buy
Man.
his arc though. It's like I don't buy
Do you
his
ever-
arc because he just hits the one guy, just because he kind of gets goaded into it, and then it's like
I
suddenly
know.
he's like kind of got tricked to
That's
being on
the
the other
flimsiest
side.
part.
But that again, it's like yeah, his character arc is fucking garbage. But I don't really care. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like like normally that would bother me, but since that's not the focus,
I think Shaolin Soccer does this better in terms of character development, character arcs.
it's a little bit more grounded too. I think slightly. I mean, it's weirder, but it's like
Well, right. I mean, well, it's got like the good guys versus bad guys
True, yeah.
immediately
No,
driven down.
you get the hero story of like,
yeah.
fallen hero, and now is his chance to rise up in a different way.
what were you saying about One Punch Man, Jordan?
But just this movie gives me those vibes where
I'm just
it's
like, I'm just good.
it's kind of like, well, yeah, but or it's even like I just love that in One Punch Man where like he's so like his power makes him like really benign, and that's kind of how this character is. He's like he wants to be so bad, but like he doesn't. You know, he's good. And he's like kind of trying to like rebel against being good, even though he just is like even that's where it kind of like that's how come I like his character, but
Yeah.
he is pretty just he's like a curmudgeon really.
That
But
could
he
have
doesn't,
been,
you know.
had that been fleshed out, that could have been
Yeah,
really
no, that would've been-
interesting.
I
you
know,
'Cause
I know.
it's-
It could have been. That's actually the disadvantage, or like the disservice this film did is it didn't, like you said, pick up a lane. Because I really would have loved to seen this a little more straight, like at her, like yeah,
Like
I don't know.
focused on
Not-
like pick a character, focus on them, and like make it happen.
Yeah,
But yeah,
like-
like you said, pick a lane. It's
Like, I see the character arc, but they really did not stick to it. Of him more just being like, okay, he finally let go, so now he's able to unlock all this stuff. Because guess what? That's any art.
yeah, they
Just
kind of
letting
wanted
go.
they kind of just threw in the kitchen sink. You know what I mean? It's just kind of everything. It's like
yeah,
had they-
right. And
had
it's so many bits.
yeah, had he kind of like tightened it up, or again, like we say all the time, expanded it a little bit to either cut or flesh it out. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes it's so hard for artists, and I mean, I know I have a hard time like deciding whether like, okay, this thing is underdeveloped. I either need to fucking get rid of it or I need to flesh it out so it actually serves a purpose. And a lot of times it's like this definitely feels like a first draft script. You know what I mean? Which is fine. I don't really care that much because it's not about that, but it does feel like a first draft, which had it been tooled from the foundation, like we said in every fucking episode, or I always rant about, it's like the script is the foundation of the movie, but it's like this foundation is fucking wonky and falling over all over the place, but it's like that's what they're going for, sort of. So it's like I'm not mad, yeah.
Well, and like we say, also, it's like the script is the foundation, but then the movie gets created 3 times, and so it's like
100%.
from script to like them shooting it, and then this movie definitely heavily
obviously.
involved post.
Yeah.
And so it's like I feel like they really like what they got out of it. Like they carved a fun movie out of it. And so,
100%. And obviously, this might be a good time to bring it up for you, Jordan, because obviously this movie was popular. I mean, you and I watched it back in the day like shortly after its release. And I remember it being like still people, it's got like a bit of a cult following.
It definitely got talked about even back then.
Oh,
Like,
back
as a
then
kid,
for
I
sure.
remember.
And it's still got a cult following.
Trailers everywhere.
It was the highest grossing foreign film like ever during its time.
That's
like,
what I was about to ask.
Time. And I don't know. I didn't see
I think
I didn't
honestly,
see like a list now, but yeah.
I think it was also because it was like we were at the height of comedy movies around that time. What 2005, 2006?
Before like the Apatow style comedies kind of took over, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Right. No, I definitely feel like this was like people were looking for this kind of movie for sure.
Like related to stoner comedies, it was like, man, let's just go and have a fun time and laugh.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And I think honestly, like when The Matrix came out, that totally got like everybody wanted to see a movie like this. And this movie was like, you know, I remember when this movie came out, people comparing it to Matrix and having
same.
that, you know, like
Kill Bill's a good one because it came out the same year as Kill Bill.
Right.
You know?
Hyper stylized fights and just
like
crazy action.
Like you're saying, it's like Kill Bill. Kill Bill is the serious version of all the homages, right? Or semi-serious anyway. 'Cause that movie is sort of cartoony too.
Oh, that's true.
But speaking of, do you got a money minute, or you know how much?
I do, yeah. So
I'm curious how much this made and everything.
The budget estimate was $20 million, which a lot of that went to distribution.
The post. Oh, really? I was gonna say
That
because
was
the
big.
post too.
But yeah.
That's pretty small considering how CG
Yeah.
heavy this is.
Well, if you
and for
watch
the time
it though,
period, the CG is not bad.
but if you watch it, I noticed there's literally only 5 sets. Like the whole, like I'd have to go through and count it again, but like it straight up is like that Pigsty Manor, that city block with the like, you know, the one. It's kind of they were smart in the production of this, where like they made it set in like the late 30s or early 40s or whatever, where it's just kind of like it is really stripped down. There's only one city block of actual city block, and then there's a slum period, you know, and that's like it. And so like they really like it's very minimal.
Yeah,
it's set.
I definitely noticed a couple reused CG too, like in the environmental destruction and stuff like that. I'm like, that's the exact same pillar, like copy and pasted several times, you know. But it's like,
but it works. It's effective.
Yeah. Well, no, 20 million is pretty cheap.
We didn't really talk about it that much, but the slum is literally like one building and then just like a wasteland around, like there's nothing. It's just like dirt around him, and it's just I don't know. It's weird to think of. Like I get it, but just like a single apartment building with like shops and everything around, like on the inside.
I was thinking that I'm like, who the fuck is who's their clientele? Who are they? Because when he does the haircut, and he's like, "That's a quarter or something." I was like, "What are you?"
Each other.
That's ludicrous.
Each other. It's like a very small city.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dread.
But
it reminds you of Dread, but
way honestly,
smaller.
kind of, yeah. Well, and Dread was Dread's based off of a city in
It's
China.
like the Kowloon walled city or whatever.
Right,
sense.
exactly. That's what it's based off. But it grossed a fuck ton though. It grossed 104 million. So
Nice.
it did just fine, and it made its money back, and it really does hold up as like a cult classic. But I was blown away because of it one of the highest grossing foreign films ever made.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't Stephen Chow do anything he wanted after this, or at least like create something else? And I was just reading that he was gonna make Kung Fu Hustle 2 in 2005. He was just like, he already had a script ready to shoot, and then production got like shut down, and then a few years later, I think it was because he had a family too, but a few years later, he made that one movie, CJ-17 or something, that weird like alien kids film. And I remember seeing that with Chet and being like, this is bad. this is weird. It's like kind of, it's like a family friendly and just kind of weird with like poop jokes and stuff. But I was like, okay, whatever. And then like he was gone. He's off the grid. He hasn't like I haven't seen him make anything since. But Kung Fu Hustle 2, he did in 2003. He said that it's in production. So whatever that means, it's in
2003 or 2023.
Or 2023. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's probably not in production. So
No. That's
if
what
he said
yeah,
that before the release of this movie.
yeah.
I mean, it could also be like 2013. You never know. At this point, it's just like things get made nowadays that I'm all like, oh, this hasn't had a sequel in over 30 years. What is happening?
I know, and this could totally come back and do well. Like,
yeah,
I would go see a Kung Fu Hustle too.
I absolutely would. I would like to see his creativity expand into newer, fresh ideas and new IPs, obviously. But it's like he's not gonna. At this point, he's been out of the game, I guess, so long that it's like the only way he is gonna get financing is for Kung Fu Hustle 2 because it's got that name recognition for being so successful when it was. But it's like, I mean, I think he would be hard pressed to make it for $20 million now. But,
of course,
but somebody would give him the money, like 20 million. I mean, obviously it's a fucking lot of money, but like for what this movie is, like it does feel kind of cheaper now, with like the CG and stuff. But it's like for such a CG heavy movie, man, it's pretty. It's like they did a lot. They stretched it. They did a lot with what they had, I think.
Oh, I feel like even like a streaming company like Netflix or something could fund that.
Yeah,
and it could turn out
whole
good.
Thing. Right. No, Netflix making a Netflix movie could easily happen, but I was trying to find out while we were talking here, but I want to figure out what happened to him. I don't know where
is he alive?
Like,
Did he disappear?
He like dropped off the face of the earth because his buddy, the fat guy in it, he's been working on a project like every year since. So like he was in something he's in something this year. He was in something last year, and so I'm like, weird that Stephen Chow would just kind of drop out.
He's trying to unlock the Buddhist palm technique.
Yeah, he's trying
because he does
do his chakra, unblock his chakra.
I mean, he does love it. So maybe he really is just dedicating himself to the blade or something. I don't know.
You don't think he wasn't the cameo of like the guy who gives him the manual for the technique, right? It wasn't him. Because
do you think? Oh, I don't know,
dude. If it is him, that's a good cameo.
That would be good.
That's really funny because I didn't even think of that, but I bet he is. Because that character is so funny.
So we're gonna I'm just gonna bring it up real quick. So like the way that the main character learns like the Buddhist palm technique and all this fighting style.
Like it's just like a jip pamphlet, but it's like it works.
It's like a 2-cent pamphlet that he gets off like this homeless dude, and he like tells him it's like, oh my gosh, you have like the perfect bone structure for kung fu. Do you want like this pamphlet to show you the Buddhist palm technique for only $10?
Yeah, he's like, normally it's priceless, but for you.
Yeah,
I give it for you $10.
And then at the very end, he goes up to another kid, and it's like, "Oh, if you're not interested in the Buddhist palm, I got like 3 more manuals." And I'm all like, "Dude,
see, that's a good setup too.
Exactly.
It's like
that's a great.
It
setup
doesn't have
for
a
sequel,
hangover for like the characters, but it's like a setup for more antics with the fresh.
And that's what the sequel's going to be. And he's not going to be the main character. It's going to be like kind of like a modern update. So
yeah, we'll see. Anyway. I got just a couple Reddits. Let's see. So, Proof Ambassador 2006 says this movie's forever goated, which that there shows the cult status of this. You know what I mean? It's just like it's funny because we got more comments on this movie than a couple of the other ones. So, Drew Z01 says I gotta unblock my chakra to be my true form.
Yeah,
right.
I know who that is.
Oh, you. My second, and then Closer People 2 says, my second watch, saw it about 10 years ago. I don't remember the plot, but I remember it was lots of fun. This time around, I had a blast. The choreography is great, and it had lots of moments that made me laugh. The score was great, too, which we didn't even mention, but yeah, it was super dope. Yeah. He goes on to say, I think the film started off better than it finished. There was a strong sense of style in the opening that got lost as we went on. I liked that it was completely over the top to the point where it almost felt like an anime at times. That allowed it to go nuts in the final act. The story was a bit weak, but this is an action parody, so it gets a free pass. Kill Bill meets Looney Tunes gets an 8 out of 10 from me. Thanks.
That's a good way to say it. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I know I said that to him. I said, oh, dude, that's a perfect way. And he said, Sadly, I can't take credit for it. It's on the Blu-ray box.
It's on the right.
Oh, really?
And I was like,
Oh, well,
that is. I'm like, it's perfect.
It is perfect. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, Clones of People 2 is the one that said it. He's officially the guy. That quote.
Thanks.
Thanks guys for all comment on that. I'm glad people.
Yeah,
I'm glad
thank you.
That's the thing. It's like this movie
It's fun.
brings
man.
joy.
Just watch
You know what I mean?
it.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's like something because it's like, I mean, I
Okay, so
smoke a little weed.
no, I'm gonna segue now. It's like, as someone who does like a little bit of martial arts, anybody who's interested in any sort of kung fu, and if they prefer like more real grounded stuff, and it's like like actual real martial arts, I was like, this still like fills that void of just like, it has good choreography, good fight scenes. It may be a little wacky at times, but you're gonna get your fill. And that's what I usually look for in martial arts films.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll see. I don't know for sure because this is one of the few I've not seen. But that segue, if maybe the next week's movie is such more of a hardcore, just straightforward martial arts film, and I've heard the choreography's dope. I've seen, was it Tony Jaa or whatever?
Tony Jaa.
I've seen him in a different movie. Was it Ong Bak, right? I
Ong
think?
Bak, the Thai warrior.
Yeah, I've seen Ong Bak, but the next week's movie is going to be The Protector, which I've not seen. So, but what I know about him, it's like I'm looking forward to seeing. I know this is more of a straightforward, more realism style, just like Max,
a bit
Kung
like
Fu,
John
like,
Wick style. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just here to kick ass, and that's it.
I don't know that much about it, so it's like I don't know how stylized it is exactly, but it doesn't seem to be too much, and so I'm interested to see that juxtaposition from this movie going into that next. You know,
There's only one thing I know about the movie, and it's like one of the best action wonders of all time.
don't tell me.
Okay.
Don't
cool.
tell me. Anyway,
I'm watching a trailer for it right now.
Don't-
And it looks.
I'm not looking at any.
It looks fucking wackadoo, dude. I'm excited for it. So, yeah. Let's get it going, man. It's our last fighter.
Yeah,
Whatever kung fu.
Last-
I don't even know what this month's called. What is this month?
martial arts.
I tried to keep it kind of vague.
Martial arts. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll see how like the next movie pans out, because the next Tony Jaa is known for Muay Thai, which is actually something I train in. So I don't know a whole lot about Wing Chun or whatever the kung fu guys were doing like in this one, but maybe I'll actually get a chance to talk about the stuff that I do.
Yeah,
That'd
it
be cool.
looks sick. It looks like there's a lot more knee action in this movie. So
Like a good knee or a good bow, right?
yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Whoops.
All right.
All right, well, check that out. I
super
mean,
fun.
obviously, watch Kung Fu Hustle. Check it out. My dog's
Yeah,
snoring like
please.
crazy over here now. She's having some allergies.
She's down.
You can't hear her on the mic, but
I know it'll wake you up if you visit Cult of Sin and Knowledge on Patreon.
There you
That'll definitely get your blood flowing.
it will. Yeah, and go to the Reddit. Vote. I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do next month, but like, vote on the movies. Check them out. Even if you don't watch them, come tell us what to watch.
Once again, shout out to SLC Muay Thai and Snake Pit MMA. If you're in the SLC area, please come train out there. We're always looking for new people.
Go get some
Oh
water.
yeah,
Danny.
baby. Go fight a snake.
Yes,
Snake-
in the snake pit.
Your ass little big
I mean,
anaconda.
that's my coach's like fighter. Jake the Snake.
That's fine.
Oh hell yeah.
I like that. All right. Well,
Okay.
I'll talk to you on the floppy. Thanks for listening. everyone.
Bye. Good night.